Hello everybody. I want to talk about a mistake I made with my RV. And this mistake contributed to a problem that cost me over $1,000. I want to show you the simple solution to this problem, and hopefully I can save you from making the same costly mistake. Well, welcome to the channel RVs and E-Bikes. I'm Barry, the host of your channel, and I'm honored that you're joining me today. And I just have to introduce my buddy here, my little sidekick, Ginger. She is typically with me when I'm recording a video, and if I don't have her here, she's scratching my legs and barking and just wants up here to be a part of the show. And of course, I let her. Well, as we move on into this video, I hope that if you find value here, that you will hit the like button for this video and hopefully subscribe to the channel. Now, moving on to the problem, we are the proud owners of a 2015 Tiffin Allegro Red diesel pusher motorhome. My wife and I primarily use the motorhome to travel to Florida to get away from the Michigan winters. And this past winter, in December, after we arrived in Florida, I noticed that there was water leaking into the rear storage area. And my first thought was that the leak was the condensation coming from the roof air conditioner and leaking down into the interior of the motorhome. So I called the mobile RV service tech, and he came out and took a look, and the tech found that the water heater, which is located right above the storage compartment, was leaking, and the cost to replace the water heater was well over $1,000. And this whole expense could have been avoided, or at least delayed, if I knew a little bit about RV water heater maintenance. And I'm going to pass this knowledge along to you here today. Now, when your water heater heats water, there are minerals that are pulled out of the water that settle into the bottom of your water heater tank. And the sediment on the bottom of your tank will eventually corrode the tank, and the tank will leak. And this is what happened to the water heater in our motorhome. And the question is, and something I didn't know until I spent well over $1,000 to learn, expensive lesson, how do you prevent this buildup of minerals and sediment? How do you prevent this from destroying your water heater? Well, the answer is simple and it's cheap. Basically, you replace the anode rod in your water heater at least once a year or every 6 months if you spend a lot of time in your RV. Most RVs have the Suburban water heater, the Suburban brand, and some of these water heaters are gas only, and some are both gas and electric. But both styles have the anode rod. So what is the anode rod? It's a long aluminum or magnesium rod that extends into the tank's interior, and it extends into the water. And the anode will attract the iron, the limestone, and other minerals that are present in your water. And this whole process is accomplished through an electrochemical process. And this is important because what happens is the rod will corrode in place of your tank corroding. Now, when the RV tech pulled the anode rod out of our leaking water heater, there was nothing left of the rod. We never changed that rod in the 6 years of owning the motorhome. Our water heater tank corroded and finally leaked. Well, the new water heater was installed in our motorhome in January of 2023, so I figured, that we're about into the month of August here, and it was time to install a new anode rod. And this rod is located at the very bottom of your water heater tank. And here's just a little tip. When I went to remove the rod, I discovered that I didn't have a socket large enough to fit the end of the rod. And so I had to take a trip to Tractor Supply and pick up an 1 1/16" socket, and that fit the rod. And once I had this right tool, removing the anode rod was quite simple. And simple, but it's obvious. You have to turn the water off to your RV before you replace the rod. Now, once I had the rod removed, I was really surprised to see how much the rod had corroded over the past 6.5 months. And a little trick to keep in mind here when you're removing the old anode rod is that before you unscrew the rod, you want to open the pressure valve, which is at the very top of your water heater tank. And by doing this, the water in the tank will flow easily out of the tank. That's because you're letting air into the top of the tank that lets the water flow out through the bottom of the tank easily. And you may also want to put a funnel or some other water diversion device below the rod so the water from the tank doesn't get into your storage areas. Now, replacing the anode rod is simple, but there are a couple of cautions you should be aware of. First, make sure you use plumber's tape on the threads of the new rod. And second, when you are screwing the rod back into the tank, make sure you don't cross-thread that rod as you're screwing it back in, because the weight of that rod extending into the tank makes it a little difficult to get the threads lined up. But you'll know when you do get them lined up, the rod screws into the tank with no resistance. But if you do cross-thread the rod and you force it, you may be on the road to replacing your hot water heater, because a cross-threaded rod may cause your water heater to leak, and you don't want that to happen. That's what you're trying to prevent. Now, once you get this done, you get the rod installed, now you can close the pressure relief valve at the top of the tank, and you go inside, turn on the hot water spigots in your bathroom, in your kitchen and bath, and then turn on the water to your RV. Because what you want to do here is you want to fill up that water tank, and you want to turn those spigots on so that the air in the water tank has a place to escape when the water is coming into your tank, and that air is coming out your spigots in your kitchen and bathroom. And when it's done, it's done when the spitting and sputtering stops, and then you know that the hot water tank is full and it's free of air, and now you're ready to go. Now, Ginger and I hope this video helps you avoid the costly mistake I made, as she gets restless, as I made with our RV. And if you do find value in this video, please subscribe and hit the like button. And I would really appreciate that if you did. I'm honored that you've taken the time to watch this video, and I wish you all safe travels, whether you travel by RV or e-bike. Take care, everybody.